It still comes to this personal relationship with the Lord, where the Lord is able to put things in your heart, as he put it in mine, and give us the grace and the power to fulfill it. So we need to be able to walk and talk with the Lord in a fellowship where the Lord can implant these ideas in our hearts and our minds until we then begin to pray over the thing until it happens. And the reason I'm saying this is because when I realized that the time when I set up the East-West conferences in Germany in 1988, there was an Iron Curtain. But God had put a vision in my heart to break that Iron Curtain and bring a spiritual awakening right across the former Soviet Union. And the significant thing is it could only have happened at that specific time. So we have to be in a relationship with the Lord so that the Lord can give us the times, tell us and speak to us and lead us and direct us. It's the same when in the early 90s we took 400 people to Siberia for 3 months. I mean, I'd been up there. I'd seen the situation, and it was only when I was there in the earlier years that something grew in my heart that we needed to take a big enough force because of the size of the whole area. I mean, Russia is, you know, the largest continent in the world. And to do it, God put something in my heart which grew until I said yes. In 1994, I think it was, that we would take 400 people for 3 months. But the significant thing is that was the only time when we could do it. We tried it again later, but it was never the same. God had a clear timing, but we need to be in the right relationship and fellowship with God so that we can appreciate the timings. And when I look back, all these major events in my life happened in order to put me in a certain place at a certain time, which God had foreknown. And I'm just looking now because, yes, I mean, I've had these countries of Central Asia on my mind. You know, the different countries like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Armenia, Kazakhstan, and Georgia, and so on. But it seems that right now, something is happening in that area, which is going to be as significant as it was in 1994, when I took 400 people to Siberia. Oh, we all know the results. We all know the revival that spread from that. Even the Russian government had to admit it. But it's the same that, like in 1961, that was a specific time that we had to do it. And what I'm trying to say to you is that we need to pray into these issues. And I'm going to ask you to pray very particularly, because what we're going to be doing is in March, we're going to be going into Uzbekistan, and we're going to be having fellowship with the pastors. And I believe something is about to happen there. And it's quite interesting because being in Armenia last year, I came in contact with a man who actually runs the Christian TV. And the most amazing thing was that we're trying to set up a national day of prayer in Armenia. And this one man was able, within a few days, to introduce me to the key pastors. It's as if God had it all planned in advance. And it was a specific time. And I believe we're going to be able to have the National Day of Prayer in Armenia. And it's the same as I was able to meet the the head of the, that's the Orthodox, they call it the Apostolic Church, that's the national church there, on a personal basis and get a relationship with him. God has these times, but we have to constantly bring these issues before the Lord in prayer. And that's what I'm really asking you to do at the moment, is specifically pray with me, because I believe a window in time and a window in opportunity is opening right now in Central Asia. But remember, all of these countries formerly were under the Soviet Union. And it was only the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1992-93 that gave these countries a relative amount of freedom. But there's not total freedom, because Russia is still involved and also Islam is involved. But there is a window of opportunity, and we have to take this, because something is burning in my spirit, the same as it did each time, whether it was going to Jerusalem in 1961, going to Siberia in 1994, or the East-West conferences in 1988. In every time there is something there. But it's our relationship with the Lord. We've got to be in a relationship with the Lord where our conversation with him has to be two-way. And I like to say this because I always remember, it's a little bit of a joke in the family, that when my wife was still alive many, many years ago, that at breakfast I was never in a talkative mood, and I would sit there. Yes, I quite admit I would probably be reading the paper, and my wife would be talking, and she'd get quite annoyed because she was talking and I wasn't responding. Oh yes, of course, I mean, we all know I was listening. But she expected a two-way conversation. And you know, if we have a relationship with people, it's not one way, it's got to be two-way communication. And people don't seem to understand that prayer is more than just, he's up there, I'm down here, let me talk to him for a few moments. It's a matter of communication where it's two ways. We talk to him and he should respond and talk to us.